Today, we become legends.
Today's Titan Talk went over some additional features for OB12, some future things coming in OB13, like more ranked bans, and a whole lot more. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already so you don't miss my future recaps, and let's jump in.
Why is no one
subscribing?
I specifically requested it.
First up, the full OB12 patch notes were released and covered on today's show. Of course, we've seen most of what's coming earlier in the week, so I'll only mention the new stuff that wasn't already showcased. You can check out my videos from Monday and Wednesday, or I'll link the full patch notes below if you aren't caught up yet. Firstly, graphical settings for new PC users will now be automatically adjusted based on system specs, which should be good for people with lower-end machines that might not be able to run Smite 2 on higher settings. This shouldn't affect existing players, just new ones. A change that's not listed in the patch notes is that you can now open multiple chests at once for the larger chests in the game, like classic skin chests, announcer packs, music packs, that kind of stuff. So if you want to roll 30 chests at once, you can do that now. There's been an adjustment to the lowest level assist XP bonus, as this was causing issues where you would sometimes hit level 2 and sometimes not when doing the exact same stars. The reason this was happening is that the bonus on assist meant that you sometimes got slightly more XP than you normally would, and that was giving you level 2. This mechanic now activates 2 minutes in instead of at game start, so this should remove those inconsistencies. Yogis Necklace is now disabled in Assault, which is a good change for sure. The meta in Assault was pretty much everyone buys this first item, even on damage dealers, so this should make the game a lot less stally and more varied in builds. We've been over OB12 balance already, but there's 2 additional changes coming that weren't discussed, and that's Baron, who's getting a little bit more base damage on his 2 and more scaling on the bonus hysteria damage in the aspect, as well as a Kali nerf to her base basic attack power and the damage of her leap. They also added the Smite 1 functionality to Morrigan ult, where it now increases in cooldown to match the target god's ultimate cooldown, which is good. I didn't even know this wasn't in, but that should help a lot with how often Mori's ultimate is up. Kilgoon also mentioned that more ranked bans are coming, but they didn't quite have time to get it in for OB12, so this will be coming in OB13. They are just increasing to 3 bans per team, not going to the Smite 1 system like they discussed before, and they're going to be also adjusting the timing on bans. Currently, you get 30 seconds per ban. After this change, you'll get 30 seconds for the first ban, but then 15 seconds for the next 2, so the same total amount of time banning. They did mention that they do want to go back to the Smite 1 system at some point, but doing this was far less work and much quicker to get into the game, and they felt like the community really needed that extra ban as soon as possible, rather than having to wait a few updates for them to implement the Smite 1 ban system. That's all the extra stuff that wasn't discussed earlier in the week though. Let's move into the Q&A section for the show. First up, someone asked for an update on the new Q screen, and Kilgun said he's not ready to share anything yet, but they're hoping that it will make it into the game for OB13. Not really worthy of the recap, but I can do some shameless self-promotion here, so I'm going to put this in anyway. They did mention that the supporter store packs can now be purchased directly from Creator Nexus links, and someone asked if those are legit because they seem like a kind of third-party key site kind of deal, and Kilgun said no, they are directly partnered with Hi-Res and are 100% legit. So if you want to pick up any diamonds, founders packs, or supporter store purchases, you can do so via the link in the description, or use creator code intersect with a 3 in the Nexus Smite store, and that will help support me at no extra cost when you buy your stuff. I appreciate you. Moving on though, someone asked when they'll talk about the next few gods in the roadmap, and they said probably Wednesday next week for that. There was a question of if they'll ever revisit African pantheons, and Kilgun said never say never, but they aren't on the immediate list of gods they're working on right now. They're of course not opposed to it, but they also look at quite a few criteria when bringing gods to the game, such as how well known they are, or do they have a unique visual hook that would immediately differentiate them from other gods in the game. Someone asked if they could do more bundles of prisms like the Athena ones, and Kilgun said they do agree that players generally don't want to buy individual prisms and prefer the bundles, but right now they found that the travelers are a much better way of doing prisms as a bundle, rather than just letting people buy them from the page in a bundle, so they're going to do more travelers for prisms going forward, as opposed to something like the Athena bundle. There was a question of if they would have more diverse build options for anti-crit similar to anti-heal, and Kilgun said maybe, but they do feel like crit is a much less widespread mechanic compared to healing, so it will never be as widespread as anti-heal items are, but possibly one more anti-crit option could be good. Someone asked if Kilgun thinks clans would be a useful feature, and he said probably not, as people tend to cultivate their friend groups outside of the specific game they're playing nowadays, like Discord, but he does agree with the general sentiment that social features are lacking in Smite 2, and some things they're working on are the ability to invite to a party from the post-match lobby, and notifications when a friend comes online, which sound good. Someone asked if they would go back and make mastery skins change the ability color sort of like prisms do, and Kilgun said probably not, just the basic attack color like they were in Smite 1. He didn't say this, but from me, I think that will be a lot of work for a feature that makes them barely any money. There was a question of if they would put PTS content onto the live client, maybe under a dev queue or in practice mode, and Kilgun said they have talked about that, but they feel like the players that are willing to accept work in progress content are already aware of the test client, and the players that might see the queue on live client and try it out will be less aware of it being very work in progress progress, and it might reflect negatively on the game to have casual or newer players hop into that queue and see that half of the stuff is just broken as all hell, which I think makes sense. I do think maybe a custom game option or having to enter a PTS code or something like that could be cool though, as I do feel like people just don't keep their PTS client updated but might hop on to check stuff if it's brought to the main client, which they are forced to update, but that will kind of depend on the download size, of course. If it's going to add a ton of download size to the main updates, then it might not be worth doing. Someone asked if they could drop patches on Friday instead of Monday so people could get excited and grind the queues over the weekend, and they said that would be great, but the issue is that no one would be there to fix issues over the weekend, so if something is broken on patch day, we'd be dealing with that until at least Monday, which is why they release patches on Monday, so they have 4 days of work week afterwards to address any issues that might crop up. Someone asked for a hard reset on ranked, and Isaiah said they are looking into what they're going to do for the rest of the rank splits this year, but they will almost certainly be soft resets, and the next hard reset will probably be season 1 at the start of next year. There was a question of if we get a new physical god at any point soon, as 3 out of 4 of the brand new gods have been magical for Smite 2 so far, and Kilgun said Barry was originally going to be physical, but they did change her during development. But they said they generally aren't as strict with this kind of stuff in Smite 2 because of the role flexibility. In Smite 1, magical meant you were a mid or support 95% of cases, but Barry was designed as a DC, and Aladdin was designed as a jungler, so they are filling out roles in that way. And finally, someone asked if the new Pantheon backgrounds could be used as a home screen option, so you can sort of like select it as your main menu background, and Kilgun said probably not, as they want to use the home screen to promote new releases and events, so letting players override that probably wouldn't be a great idea. But that's everything discussed on today's Titan Talk. Don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss my future recaps, and I'll catch you guys for another one later on. Have a great day, and peace out, you nerds.